Welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending today. Our topic is going to be on access reviews. Just briefly, if you guys have any technical issues or if you have any questions that you'd like to ask before we go to the Q&A, please feel free to use the chat functionality. We'll have a member of our CoreView team monitoring that. They'll be able to either answer the questions for you, assist you in any way they can, or feed the questions over to me so that I can assist or answer any questions as we go through the webinar. This webinar will be recorded and there will be a on-demand link available. So if you guys want to review this webinar later on, please feel free to just ask for it and we'll be more than happy to share that link with you guys. And yes, we will have a Q&A panel at the end of the webinar. So if you guys want to ask your questions at the end, please feel free to ask those at the end or use the chat functionality. All right, just a little bit about myself. My name is David Cruz. I'm a solutions implementation consultant. I am calling from Florida here, where it's hot and humid. So feel free to share where you guys are dialing in from. It's always interesting to hear where everybody is from, just to see what kind of people we have joining our webinars. All right, so let's begin with a quick overview of what governance is. So governance is basically about implementing a standard and procedure or a process to protect your business in the long run. At its core, the governance focuses on preventing sprawl and managing the complete life cycle of resources within your organization. What's often overlooked is that these processes aren't just about operations. They have a direct impact on security and business continuity. So, in essence, governance ensures security by shielding your organization from data breaches, and it drives compliance, helping you avoid fines and mitigating risks. So, when you guys start adopting Microsoft 365, it's easy to just assume that everything will remain organized and under control. That's at least what we would hope for. Unfortunately, the reality is very different than that. As your organization grows, you'll end up with more and more chats, apps, files, and data. And when we start getting all of those, we usually call those collaboration sprawl. And here is a little line that shows the reality of what the consistency would look like as opposed to our vision. So basically, there's also permission sprawl as well, where users and apps accumulate permissions that are not reviewed or revoked in frequent intervals. There's also identity sprawl, which occurs when external users and guests are added, but they are never properly managed or offboarded, especially with 365 and the collaboration features that are available on the platform. So for instance, disabling a user that isn't enough if you're just leaving behind untouched licenses and OneDrive accounts. This can also lead to financial sprawl, where you're wasting resources and the money that is appended to or attached to the licensing or the services that 365 and cloud solutions offer. So in short, the sprawl is what happens when governance isn't prioritized. The consequences don't stop there, though, because that also brings in security risks. Also, admins can struggle with the increased complexity, and the attack surfaces expand, leaving your organization more vulnerable to threats. This can lead to compliance risks as well, and configuration drift, which can quickly spiral out of control. So how do we move beyond these challenges and get to the green line that we idealize here? And that's going to be through lifecycle management. Lifecycle management involves controlling the entire journey of users, services, and resources, from provisioning through managing each stage of their lifecycle, to deprovision when they're no longer needed. And through this process, it's essential to regularly review and check that nothing spirals out of control so that your administrators can have an easier task of managing your guys' environment. Let's take a look at what the user lifecycle management would look like. So first of all, at the beginning, it's when you start onboarding your users. This process is often time consuming depending on how you guys are currently implementing user onboarding. So if you guys do manual onboardings, for example, it can take anywhere from an hour to a couple of hours, or even longer if you have more complex onboardings. Unfortunately, because of the complexity of onboarding, a lot of misconfigurations can creep in, and that adds to the delay as well. If you have hybrid users as well, that adds an extra layer of complexity to the process, just because there's additional configurations and also sync requirements since you guys are synchronizing them from on-prem up to the cloud. Effective governance ensures onboarding is smooth and accurate when working with hybrid and also cloud objects. Once onboarded, security settings must be configured for the users. So in 2025, every user should have a multi-factor authentication enabled. Mailboxes, devices, and other access points also need proper configuration so that we can safeguard sensitive information. And then there's movers. So basically, as employees move across teams, they often accumulate unnecessary permissions and privileges. Instead of letting old access linger, governance practices should ensure permissions are reconfigured and based on the user's new role. That way, we continue using the least privilege methodology and make sure that users only have access to what they need in their current role. Continuous access roles are critical at this stage. So regularly auditing user permissions will ensure that access is up to date and aligns with the current roles and responsibilities. If you guys neglect that, permissions and privileges will continue to grow unchecked for users. And finally, when an individual is no longer with the organization, offboarding must be thorough. This involves removing the account, reclaiming licenses, securely reassigning ownership of resources. For example, if you guys need to convert their mailboxes to shared mailboxes and grant a specific team access to that shared mailbox. Same with OneDrive, same with SharePoint information. Basically, the offboarding to your guys' requirements has to be thorough and proper to make sure that everything aligns with your guys' standard operator procedures. So with this lifecycle framework, you can effectively manage and scale IT governance. You can move closer to your desired vision. If you remember that chart we were looking at, that green line, we can move closer to that while keeping your organization secure and resilient to breaches. This framework can be implemented in various ways. At CoreView, we offer many ways for you guys to implement. Today, we're going to be looking at one specific way that we can look at it, which is called access reviews. So access reviews are not optional. They are a necessity for your compliance and your overall security within the organization. Regular reviews will prevent unchecked growth in user privileges, and it'll keep your organization secure and efficient. All right, let's get a little bit of user interaction. Let's talk about how access reviews might impact your guys' organization. So for example, how do you guys currently monitor user access rights across workloads like team, security groups, or SharePoint? If you guys want to share that on the chat, I'd be more than happy to hear how you guys currently focus your efforts on this type of access reviews. Do you guys do a manual process? Do you guys have custom PowerShell scripts where you can pull that data, that information from Microsoft so that you guys can review? All right. Do outdated permissions and inactive accounts create security risks for your organizations? If you guys have come across different scenarios like that, we'd be more than happy to hear about your experience there. And then finally, how do manual access reviews affect the productivity of your IT team? Manual access reviews can be a very hour intensive task, depending on how many access reviews you guys need to accomplish. For example, if you guys are manually reviewing the access of security groups, it's not uncommon for organizations to have hundreds to thousands of security groups. So if you have a dedicated team that has to go through that type of access review, I imagine that that's quite a bit of effort they have to put in play. So all this to say is that we can agree that IT admins are inevitably impacted in terms of access reviews. Most of the time, they will struggle to gather the information on users who access permissions needed to be revoked. So it can create security vulnerabilities, it can increase the risk of unauthorized access to sensitive data, and it'll lead to a cluttered and ineffective environment. That's why CoreView now has access reviews available for you guys to start interacting with. So let's briefly talk about how we can work through creating an access review within CoreView, and then we'll switch over to our demo environment and I'll create one with you guys so that you guys can see how quick and easy it is for us to be able to do that. So first, from CoreView, you're going to select the resources that you want to create the access review for. We have several templates out of the box available for you guys to select from. That includes security groups, guest user access, mailbox permissions, OneDrive owners, and SharePoint site members. So you'll be able to start creating access reviews with those. Once you've selected that workload, you'll then assign resources to the reviewer. Do bear in mind that multiple reviewers can be added to a specific access review. So for example, if you guys are working on a specific security group, you can add multiple reviewers to that security group. Basically, the way CoreView will interact in that type of scenario is that the first reviewer that accepts the tasks will lock, quote unquote, the access review, meaning that any additional reviewer will not be able to access that review until the person that currently has it assigned either finishes that access review, or we do have a capability of releasing that access review so that another reviewer may take over the task. And then the reviewer will basically go through their access review, making sure that everything looks good, or if there's any modifications that need to be done, they'll be able to accomplish that. And finally, they will review and submit the review. All right, let's take a quick look at what that will entail. Here we go. Here's our demo environment. And once you guys have the new access review features, you'll see the reviews option on the left-hand side where my cursor is currently highlighting. From here, when you click on it, we can start creating access reviews by clicking the access review button. Or if you are assigned an access review for you guys to start working with, you'll simply go to my task list, and from there you'll see any access review that's currently assigned to you. Let's go ahead and create a new one. All right, this is our access review panel, and we have our create review from template option on the right-hand side. We'll simply click on that. We'll select the type of workload that we're trying to work with. Let's say in this case we wanted to do a security group like we were talking about. Okay, so you'll be greeted by this panel here. And if you guys interact with CoreView through playbooks or through any of our workflows, you'll be familiar with its type of look. Basically, we need to give it a title. We need to give it a description, which is important to fill out as detailed as possible so that the reviewer knows exactly what they need to do within their review. And then why is this important? This is more of a general information as to how it'll affect your guys' environment. You can add tags. These tags are specific so that you guys can categorize the different access reviews that you guys have, especially as you start interacting with this specific subsystem in CoreView. Tags will make it very easy for you guys to identify what each access review is for. And then the priority. So depending on what type of priority or how you want to categorize that specific priority, you can select high priority, medium, or low, or no priority if it's something that's not immediately important for you guys to start in the access reviews. For now, let's just leave it as no priority and hit next. Okay, review definition. Since we selected security groups from our specific template, it's going to greet us with all the different security groups within the organization, in this case, our demo environment. We can now select which security groups we want this access review to have as part of the access review. And we can use our filters if you guys need to use specific filtering criteria for multiple groups. If it's just one group, all we need to do is look for the display name for that one specific group and then select it by putting a check on the checkbox. We can select multiple of them. So we can do multiple security groups out of one access review. For now, let's just leave it to this demo security group and hit next. Now we can select how many days are available for this security group to be, or this access review to be reviewed. Let's say 30 days. And then when we want the access review to begin. So if you wanted to start today, you would just select that date. Or if you wanted to select a different date, we could select, for example, the 7th. This access review will be sent out as a notification via email. So you will need to give it a good email subject so that you know exactly what the recipient is going to have. And then you can use your email body as well so that they know exactly what the access review is going to entail. Once you've customized your email and everything looks good, you can hit next. And then finally, we can go ahead and if you need any notes to save our access review, you can fill them out here and hit save and submit. All right, there's our security group members access review. You'll get a progress status. We also have logs available. Logs do take a little bit of time to generate, but basically at this point, this access review is ready. Once this access review is assigned, if the user is a CoreView operator, meaning that they have access to CoreView, they can simply log into CoreView as they normally do, click on Reviews, and then click on My Task Lists. And from there, they'll be able to see their tasks. If they are not currently a CoreView operator, it doesn't matter. CoreView will create a temporary operator account for them. The temporary operator account will be valid for the amount of time that you guys selected for the access review. They'll be able to access CoreView. The only thing they'll be able to do within CoreView is go to their access review. And from there, they'll be able to complete that access review, at which point their access to CoreView will be revoked. And if you guys need them to continue having access to CoreView, you'll simply be able to go into the settings, operators, and then add them as operators to CoreView so that they can continue accessing CoreView. All right. So why should you care about access reviews? Well, as you guys saw before, it was a very manual and time-consuming process for reviewing employee access and rights. Also, outdated permissions can lead to heightened security risks and breaches. IT staff can be overwhelmed depending on the size of your IT team by the complexity of reviewing resources, especially if they lack familiarity with those specific resources. You'll also be able to automate reviews and streamline monitoring with our access reviews. You'll be able to mitigate security risks through regular permission checks. And finally, your IT efficiency will be boosted by automating access reviews and reducing reliance on manual processes. With that, I want to open up the floor for Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, we should allow you guys to unmute your microphones at this point so that you guys can start asking any questions.
There is one question so far which asks, is this recorded for viewing later? Which, yes, it is. So it will be available on our YouTube, and we will send you an email after the event with the link to watch the video recording. That's the only question so far.
All right, I'll leave the floor open for any questions, but in the meantime, I do want to say that we do have a QR code for you guys to share your experience with CoreView. The first 10 people that scan this will receive a $25 Amazon gift card. So if you guys get in there and share your experience, you can get that $25 Amazon gift card. I'll give you guys another couple minutes for questions, and from there, we'll just give you guys a little bit of time back. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining today. We appreciate your time as always. If you do have any questions or if you'd like to start playing around with access reviews, please talk to your technical account managers. We can add that feature as a demo, or if you'd like to get some more information or technical details, we'll be more than happy to share that with you guys.